The arrest of Rodrigo Duterte by the ICC marks a seismic shift in Philippine politics, unraveling the fabric of a presidency that thrived on fear and controversy. His brutal war on drugs and authoritarian grip polarized the nation, fostering deep divisions. As the dust settles, the Philippines stands at a crossroads, grappling with its identity and future. Will this moment catalyze a push for justice and reform? Or will it deepen the shadows of past alliances and unresolved conflicts?
This event raises urgent and complex questions. Will Duterte's supporters rise in protest, leading to mass demonstrations, or even a people power revolution? Will the Bangsamoro, MNLF, and MILF take advantage of the crisis? Will President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. declare martial law to suppress unrest? If a snap election is held and Sara Duterte wins, how will she handle the aftermath of her father's arrest? How will China respond, given its past relationship with Duterte? Could Marcos Jr. follow in his father's footsteps and seek to extend his rule? What if another war on drugs is launched, leading to more international condemnation? What if another people power movement emerges, forcing the government to act? The Philippines has a long history of political upheaval, from the fall of Ferdinand Marcos Sr. in 1986 to the ouster of Joseph Estrada in 2001. The question now is, will history repeat itself? Duterte's arrest will trigger mass protests and violent reactions from his supporters. In Davao, his political stronghold, people may take to the streets in defiance. On social media, pro-Duterte groups and influencers will intensify their propaganda, claiming that the arrest is an attack on Philippine sovereignty. President Bongbong Marcos Jr. faces a major dilemma. 1. Support Duterte and risk international backlash. 2. Distance himself and anger Duterte's loyal base, which could turn against him in the next elections. Will martial law be declared? If the protests escalate into riots, bombings, or insurgent activities, Marcos Jr. may declare martial law, just as his father did in 1972. However, this would risk another people power revolt. Duterte's die-hard followers, including some former military and police officers, could organize an armed rebellion. The possibility of an attempted coup or military defection cannot be ruled out, especially if Duterte's allies feel that Marcos Jr. has abandoned them. Possible outcomes: mass arrests of pro-Duterte figures to prevent an uprising, a faction of the military defecting to support a Duterte-led rebellion, a violent crackdown on Duterte's supporters, deepening political divisions. The longer Duterte remains imprisoned, the greater the chance of unrest turning into a full-blown crisis. What if a snap election is called and Sara Duterte wins? A snap election could be called to restore stability. If this happens, Sara Duterte would be the strongest candidate, riding on her father's arrest to gain sympathy votes. Sara Duterte's presidency, a continuation of Duterteism? If she wins, expect the following. 1. The return of the war on drugs, possibly harsher than before. 2. More aggressive moves against opposition figures and media outlets. 3. Closer ties with China, using foreign investments to stabilize the economy. If protests break out against her rule, she could declare martial law, justifying it as necessary to maintain order. Now, what if China intervenes? China has a strategic interest in the Philippines, particularly in the South China Sea. With Duterte gone, Beijing could exploit the instability to justify a stronger military presence in disputed waters. Use economic deals and investments to back pro-China politicians. Fund insurgencies or pro-Duterte forces to destabilize the country further. If Sara Duterte or another pro-China leader wins the snap election, expect an even greater shift toward Beijing, possibly at the expense of national sovereignty. What if Marcos Jr. becomes another dictator? With Duterte gone, Marcos Jr. could consolidate his power, much like his father did. Scenario 1. Marcos declares martial law. If protests and unrest continue, Marcos Jr. may use the crisis to justify martial law, suppressing opposition and extending his rule beyond 2028. Scenario 2. Marcos changes the Constitution. Marcos Jr. could push for a constitutional amendment to remove term limits, allowing him to rule indefinitely. If successful, the Philippines could return to a dictatorship. Scenario 3. The military rebels against Marcos. If Marcos becomes too authoritarian, factions within the Armed Forces of the Philippines, AFP, may launch a coup, leading to either a new democracy or a military dictatorship. What if there's another people power revolution? The Philippines has overthrown 2 presidents through people power. If public anger reaches a tipping point, a third revolution could erupt. Possible triggers for the third people power are as follows. 1. Sara Duterte wins and continues her father's policies, leading to human rights abuses. 2. Marcos Jr. declares martial law and tries to extend his rule. 3. China increases its presence in the Philippines, sparking national outrage. A new people power movement could either restore democracy or lead to greater chaos, depending on how the military and international community react. In conclusion, Duterte's arrest has thrown the Philippines into a state of uncertainty. Several possible futures lie ahead. 1. A people power uprising overthrows the government. 2. Sara Duterte wins and turns the country into a Duterte-style authoritarian state. 3. China uses the crisis to tighten its grip on the Philippines. 4. Marcos Jr. declares martial law and becomes another dictator. The fate of the country now rests in the hands of the Filipino people. Will they fight for democracy? Will they accept another Duterte? Or will history repeat itself under another Marcos? The coming months could determine the Philippines' future for decades to come. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the possible futures of the Philippines, make sure to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel for more thought-provoking discussions on politics, history, and what-if scenarios. What do you think will happen next? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's discuss. Turn on the notification bell so you don't miss our next mind-blowing theory.